I'm going to go over a little bit of the background for this victim offender mediation that we will be role playing. In this particular case, 1 year has passed since the police were called to Matthew and Lynn's house because of a domestic violence incident in which Lynn, the wife, was the offender. The LA County Department of Children and Family Services is involved now, and there is an open parent reunification plan. Currently, Matthew, the husband, has full custody of the couple's 2 children, and Lynn is allowed supervised visitation. Children and Family Services has created a pilot victim offender mediation program that is in place for investigations and circumstances that are appropriate for the program. The county started this pilot program because it believes that the mediation program can be beneficial to the county and the involved parties when both parents and the social worker can work together in developing a plan instead of having to bring the issue before the court. Because as we know, when the court has to step in, both parties lose control over the process. The county also believes that the program can be beneficial to the children if these issues can be resolved without protracted court involvement. In leading up to this mediation, Lynn has taken some positive steps over the last few months. She thinks she is ready for unsupervised visitation and/or partial custody and wants to modify the current case plan. Matthew does not think Lynn should be allowed custody or unsupervised visitation. Lynn has asked their social worker, Dennis, if the case can be referred to the victim offender mediation program because she wants Matthew to see that she is getting better. Dennis determines that the pilot program is appropriate in this case because of the steps that Lynn has started taking to get better. And although skeptical, Matthew agrees to the mediation because he doesn't want to alienate his children from his estranged wife. So we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is Kayla. Thank you for being here and being willing to meet with each other. Lynn and Matthew, in preparation for this meeting, I met with each of you privately so that you could share your story with me and what you hope to get out of this mediation. During our meetings, I explained the process to you and what you can expect. We reviewed potential consequences of your disclosure of facts to each other during the mediation, and we also discussed that you both have the right to talk to an attorney about your legal rights. You both agreed to be here today and participate in this mediation as part of the LA County Department of Children and Family Services pilot victim offender mediation program. As I explained previously, the program's goal is to provide you as parents with more control over this process and the reunification plan when appropriate. In this case, Lynn, you currently have supervised visitation with the children, and you've asked for this mediation to discuss the possibility of modifying your visitation and custody rights. Because of the nature of the case and Matthew having full custody of the children at this time, Children and Family Services determined that this case was appropriate for mediation. So again, as we discussed when we met privately, one of the benefits of this process is that it will allow both of you to share your stories with each other directly, listen to one another, and you will have the opportunity to reach mutual agreements. The process is also going to allow you to retain a certain amount of control over what the reunification plan, the visitation, and the custody arrangements will look like in the future. As you know, many of these decisions are typically left to the social workers and the court without any parental input. So my role today in this process is simply to provide the two of you with a safe space for you to have this conversation. I am a neutral third-party guide. I am not a judge. I am not a fact finder. My job is simply to make sure that everything that is helpful and necessary to discuss can be said during our time together. You will each have a chance to speak directly to one another, to tell your stories and discuss the impacts and any concerns that you may have, and then determine what steps can be taken and agreements can be reached so that the reunification plan can be modified in the future. Now, because the county is involved with your case, your social worker, Dennis, is present today, and he will discuss certain steps that are required to be taken in addition to whatever agreements the two of you reach. I just want to revisit the issue of confidentiality, that we discussed previously. This mediation is confidential to the extent that I will not share any information that is discussed today. However, Dennis may need to include some of the information in the reports that he'll have to prepare as part of your reunification plan and case file. In addition, I want to be clear that Dennis and I are required to break confidentiality if there are any threats of harm to yourself or others. Are there any questions so far before I go over the ground rules?
I don't have any right now.
Okay, Lynn, do you have any
I
questions?
don't have any questions right now either.
Okay, so I just want to go over a few ground rules that we may have to revisit throughout this process if necessary. As you know, this mediation is voluntary. You have both agreed to be here. If at any point you feel that you cannot participate, or even if you just need a break to step away for a moment, please let me know. In addition, I have the right to end this mediation as well if I believe at any point that you are unable or unwilling to participate in a meaningful and safe manner. I encourage both of you to speak directly to one another. Both of you will have the opportunity to speak and ask questions, so I ask that you not interrupt one another when one of you is speaking and that you respectfully listen to one another. Also, I know that this is very emotional for both of you, but I ask that you avoid name calling, degrading, or insulting one another. And I also ask that you refrain from arguing with each other. Remember, we're here to discuss what happened, its impact, and importantly, how you can move forward. So there may be details on which you will have to just agree to disagree. Okay, with all of that being said, are there any questions before we begin?
I don't have any.
No, I don't either.
Okay. So if there are no questions, now it's time for the two of you to talk about what happened, the impacts on your family, and any concerns about the reunification plan going forward. I know, Matthew, that you indicated that you would like to begin. So whenever you are ready, please share with Lynn how her behavior has affected your family and your concerns.
Thank you. On July 1st, 2006, it was about a month after our first baby was born. We went out for a few drinks with the intention of coming home not too late because of the baby. And so at 2 a.m., when I suggested that we head home, you still wanted to stay out, Lynn. And when I said we should be getting back, you agreed to leave. But as we were walking home, you started to argue with me and started to belittle me in front of our friends and become really aggressive. When you started shouting when we got home and smashed a mirror over my head, I'd never seen that side of you. And not wanting to make things worse, I cleaned myself up, swept up the glass on the floor, and slept on the couch. And in the morning, when you came out of the bedroom, you act like nothing had happened at all. So I didn't say anything. I just kind of crawled back up under my rock and it became smaller and smaller inside. A few weeks later, when I got a call from work to see if I could do an extra shift, I said no, as I was already exhausted from doing night shifts and working 60 hours a week. When I got off the phone, you told me to ring them back and tell them that I was coming in. I refused. I didn't want to go to work. I was exhausted. You started arguing with me again, saying you needed new clothes, we needed the money. And every time I tried to talk to you, you'd shout over the top of me and belittle me even further. All of a sudden, the smash of the glass door in our living room unit was heard crashing down, and you started throwing pieces at me. And before I knew it, I had scratches all over my face and neck, and I had to run to the closest people I could think of, our neighbors. They let me stay the night. The next morning, I returned home to you crying, saying how sorry you were and how it wouldn't happen again. And I really wanted to believe it, but I was confused. Or anything else happened again, and I was really hopeful that the stress of just having a new baby was the cause, and that you were just trying to get adjusted to all the changes that were going on in our life and with your body in childbirth. 2009, we lost our middle child. And surely we were both distraught. And by this time, it had really changed our relationship. You started to go out a lot more, leaving me home with our child and rolling in sometimes during the day and the night. And I just didn't even know where you were. Arguing became even more aggressive, and it continued for even more months. And then I found out you were using cocaine and drinking and cheating with the guy down the block. And when I confronted you about it and the cheating, you blamed it on me for not being there when we lost our child, which was the furthest thing from the truth. My heart was ripped out. I didn't know how to express it, but I was hurting too. I loved you, Lynn. I was desperate and I wanted to make it work. So I forgave you. And after our third baby was born, I was there left holding two children, working a full-time job, doing night shifts sometimes to fill in the blanks for the money. And I started to become so miserable that I could hardly see straight. And when I found out that you dipped into our life savings and our retirement account for $5,000 to buy cocaine while the children were still around, that's really where things started to tumble. The daily struggles, the shouting, the pushing me around and demasculating me came to a head. And in 2013, you came in and you attacked me one more time. And when I ran to the neighbor's house to phone the police, we were both arrested. They interviewed me straight away, and they knew that I hadn't been drinking, and they had to wait for you to sober up to be able to get a decent interview. And after the interview, the police told me they would just have to let us both go, even though I had marks on my face and you didn't. I tried one more time and we decided to make it a fresh start after that incident and moved away as a family. And things were great only for a few months until a rumor started that I'd been sleeping around with someone else. And that wasn't true. It was the furthest thing from it. We had a few friends over, and the lady that I was accused of cheating on came at the same time, and everything seemed to be going fine until you lost your mind and accused me of cheating right in front of her and in front of all of our neighbors. I didn't know what to think. It was like someone had flipped a switch and just filled your entire body with anger. So when I decided to move myself out of that situation, after about 10 minutes, I made my way back home, and there you were waiting for me. And there it was again. And you started biting and scratching and tearing up my face again. Kids were distraught. I told them to run upstairs and put themselves in the room. And as I managed to break free and grab the kids to lock the door, you pushed your way in and didn't even care if they were crying. I saw the house phone on the bed, and when I called the police, you fought for that too. And before I know it, you barged through the entire house, breaking everything in sight. You pushed me down to the bed, you bit at my eyes and my ears, and those vicious attacks you did all in front of our children. I can't even begin to tell you how tore up I was. I don't know how I managed to get out of the house, but when the police and the ambulance pulled up, the police took the statement, the pictures, as well as the clothes that I was wearing. And the next day I was phoned by the police telling me that they were pressing charges. Restraining order had been placed on an emergency basis, and I was given custody of the kids. And you were only allowed some supervised access, which seemed to be the most appropriate thing at that particular time, and I believe up until this day. I want to make it so that our children are free, safe, and happy. And I want a fresh start. what I've seen is that you're suffering from a couple of things. Maybe some postpartum depression, loss and grief from the loss of our child, and certainly from alcohol and drug addictions or proclivities that certainly, can't be tolerated because we can't protect our children that way. And if I fail to protect our children from that behavior, then they're not going to be with me either, and they're not going to have either of us as parents. I believe after talking to my therapist and talking with Dennis, our social worker, that you can do it. And all I want you to do is listen to what he's got to say. The social services that are available out there are amazing. We're not the first family that's ever suffered from something like this. And I believe you've got the ability, but I want you to listen. And that's all I can ask you to do. Please do that. That's all I have for right now.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Lynn, you may respond to Matthew whenever you're ready.
I want to start by apologizing. I know I've caused a lot of pain and suffering to our families, our children, you, me. I've destroyed a lot that we've built, and yeah, I'm very, very disappointed and upset with myself for that. And I can't apologize enough to you or our children. I know that what I've done here, things will probably never be the same. I know that the things that I've put you through, the things that our kids have seen, I know has probably ruined things for good. I know that, and that scares me, and that really worries me. I definitely have burned some bridges, and I really don't know if we'll ever get back to a normal, whatever normal is, happy place. I really don't know, but I know that I want to show you, I want to prove to you, to our children, that I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I want to do better. I want to feel better. I am desperate to, I want you to be proud of me. I want to be proud of me. I'm nervous about what Dennis might, recommend for us, for me. I know that this is going to be a long road, and that I'm anxious about that. But I am at a place now where I'm on board. I am ready. As hard as this is going to be, and as scared as I am, I'm ready. I hope you can believe me at some point. I hope that you see this and my actions and my words line up, and I just want things to get better. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry forever. This is the worst thing. I never imagined we'd be here. I think about that all the time, and I just want you to know that I really do want to make this right as much as I can. So whatever Dennis and our mediator and you and I all agree on, I want to do this. I really do. And I'm sorry, and I love you, and I love our kids, and I'm ready.
Lynn, I know that when we met privately, you had mentioned to me how much you wanted to express to Matthew um, more information that you have about your diagnosis and how that impacted your behavior. So I don't know if that's something you want to share today.
Yeah, I want to touch on that. With losing the baby and probably my own mental health issues that I've had since childhood. Um, it was really rough on me. I know, we were together through this, but just physiologically, the toll it took on my mind and my emotions and everything. Yeah. So it has been horribly, I can't even put into words how awful this has been. Um, I was diagnosed with postpartum. Um, I'm now on medication. I am feeling better. I'm working with my doctor that I've had for a long time, and she's, as far as I can tell, yes, things are looking better. I am feeling better. Of course, it's not like I'm perfect every day is great, but just, I probably feel the best I've felt in a very long time. I Yeah. So I am on a low dose of a medication right now. Um, and that has helped. Um, but yeah, I know these aren't excuses. I know that you know, so many women deal with postpartum and it doesn't always look the way it looked for me. And so I know that, and I'm not trying to blame that as like that's the reason, and so it's not my fault. It's my fault. I've had opportunities to be better and to act better and to treat you and our children right, and I've completely messed that up. So I just wanted to express that to you, to everybody here today, that that is what's been going on. Um, and I'm on medication for it.
From what I've been learning, because I'm taking some classes and doing some counseling, I enabled this behavior for far too long. So I'm going to take responsibility on my side for not stepping in and doing something to bring this forward earlier. But here we are today. And I know from what I've read and what I've learned from my therapist and through Dennis, our county social worker, the programs that are available to us, in addition to what we've already sought out, are there to build bridges. And I know some of ours have been totally blown up, but they're there to help people through these types of things. That's why I'm here today. And believe me, skeptical is a word that was brought up earlier, and certainly, I've been traumatized too. But I've had some reassurances that the success rate is often good, and so I want to give it a try, and I want to have opportunity for you to listen and see how you'll respond, and either accept or decline anything that is put out here for us to work with.
Thank you, Matthew and Lynn. Before we move on to next steps, is there anything else that the two of you would like to share with one another or express?
Well, our kids right now have been moved out of the advanced placement classes in school, and they're doing some special education classes now because of the emotional disturbances that they've experienced. So they're getting some supportive services from the school psychologist as well. And so the path that they were on in school certainly was disrupted. The emotional upset has caused a rift in their ability to concentrate and stay on track. I'd like to get them back up to that level of learning. They're bright kids, but it's one of the tolls that's been had here. And so we're working to get some extra help from the school and their education program so that hopefully we can get that bridge rebuilt too.
Okay, thank you. So before we have Dennis start reviewing the case plan, Matthew, are there any steps that you can identify that you would like to see Lynn take to make you feel more comfortable in modifying the case plan?
Well, the case plan that was reviewed with me seemed reasonable. So I'll defer to Dennis to be able to lay out the plan, and then if Lynn has any questions as to why, then maybe we can have some discussion. I mean, I agree with the steps that are there. What I would like to see to feel secure, because I need to feel safe again. I'm afraid, is that each of these milestones, because there are timelines that are involved in them, just like my domestic violence victims class is a whole year long. I'm going once a week and I get some help from the family to watch the kids, but I'm getting support there. And just like when I go to my therapy sessions or take the kids, we have to plan time. I want to be able to share that parenting at some point in the future if we can get past these milestones. But I think that they all need to be met before that golden unification term liberalized is considered. And that's where I believe, Dennis is going to help us with all the emotional tools that we need for that toolbox, because mine has been turned upside down. I don't know if there's anything left in it, but I'm trying to climb back up to a point where I feel confident again, and success will be a part of that.
So if you're both ready, I will go ahead and turn it over to Dennis to review the case plan. Dennis, I know that you sent me a copy and asked that I share it with everyone while you review it. So I will do that now. Can everyone see that? Can you all see that? Okay, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Okay.
That's way better.
Okay.
Okay. Well, good evening, everybody. We are here today. This is a recommendation for both parties, for both Matthew and Lynn. This is not a court order. So we can respectfully hold a mediation for both Lynn and Matthew to work out their differences and for both to feel safe. We're gonna start off with this recommendation and just go along and check off what I feel is appropriate to recommend for both parties. Right now, children are in placement with Matthew, the father. And just to make things clear, Matthew has all the educational and parental rights right now for the children. And now I would like to move on for programs for the parents. I will first like to start off with the drug and alcohol services. Lynn, I would like to see you go through a full drug and alcohol program with aftercare. This program will be for 90 days. Is that something that seems reasonable and fair for you?
Yeah, you said that's for 90 days.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. That's 3 months. Okay.
Does that sound good to you, Matthew?
Yes, it does.
Lynn, I would also like to see you go through the 12-step program to complete it and to have a weekly, random, and on-demand testing for drug and alcohol. Does that seem fair for both parties?
Yeah, I agree with that. I've been to a couple meetings already, so yeah, I would feel comfortable continuing that, definitely.
Perfect. Now, I would like to move on to the domestic violence portion of this. Lynn, I know Matthew mentioned that he started taking classes once per week for over a year for domestic violence. So I would recommend for you to attend also these domestic violence classes. Also, I would like to recommend both the parents be on conflict. And for you, Lynn, individual counseling. I would like to see individual counseling for yourself. I would also recommend a psychological assessment, psychiatric evaluation, and mental health and anger management. I know you mentioned you're working with your own personal doctor and are on medication, but I feel Matthew would feel pretty comfortable if there was a neutral evaluator. That is why I'm recommending a doctor from the LA County to also be part of this. Does that sound fair for you, Matthew?
That's what I'd like. I'd like to make sure that we have a collaboration, not just a one-sided piece. I need to be a part of it.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I'm fine with that also, but yeah, I would still like my doctor that I currently work with to be part of this team.
Perfect. Collaboration is key. And Lynn, once you take care of everything, all the recommendations that I implemented for you, then you can start receiving conjoined counseling with the family. Does that seem fair for both of you?
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
I would now like to move down to programs for children. Just to reiterate, Matthew right now, he has all parental and educational rights. He is the parent, but later down the line, once you complete all these milestones, Lynn, I would suggest an individual education program. And then afterwards, you can start having conjoined counseling with the family once you complete everything. Does that seem fair for both of you?
It's fair as long as we're meeting the milestones as they're prescribed. Each of those counselors and programs are going to be submitting their observations. So I'll defer to those.
Next, let's talk about visitation. So visitation right now is going to be monitored every Sunday from 2 to 4 p.m. and it will be monitored by the employee of the county. Does that seem fair, Matthew?
Well, honestly, I would feel a little bit more comfortable if we could, instead of having someone from the county as supervision, if maybe we could have Matthew's siblings. I would feel more comfortable with that. I don't know if that's an option, but that's what I would like that.
As long as it's okay with Matthew.
My brother and sister both said that they would be okay with that. They love our kids, and they're willing to go through the background check to have that happen. I think it would make the kids feel a lot more comfortable to be around someone they know than a county office or wherever it is that these things take place.
I love it. Making progress. Matthew, question for you. Are you comfortable with phone and video chats during and after Lynn completes the program and during the program?
That's okay, as long as I have the advance notice so that it's not interfering with bedtime, bath time, homework. We have to have a schedule. The kids are finally in a decent sleep schedule. I just can't have it at any time. If we can do that, then it's okay.
So right now, I'd like to check off the discretion and liberties. Right now, these visitations will be monitored by members of your family, Matthew, until she completes the program. Then we can discuss, when joint counseling, all the realization for unsupervised visits. Lastly, these are the recommendations at this time. I would like to abide by all restraining order, peaceful contact, and respectful communication for both parties. Does that seem fair?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay. These are my recommendations. Do these requirements seem fair and attainable for you?
I agree with them. I agree with them.
I agree also.
Sounds good. Matthew, I know you requested a copy of the case plan. A copy will be given to you at the end of this mediation. I want to say thank you, to both of you for maintaining the respectful communication and not let things escalate. Thank you for your time, and if I can do anything for the both of you, please reach out. I would now like to refer back to Kate.
Thank you, Dennis. Before I close out the case plan, Matthew or Lynn, is there anything else on here, Matthew specifically, anything else that you feel should be added or was overlooked, or you feel comfortable with what Dennis has laid out for your family?
I just wanted to reiterate that the timelines that are installed in this agreement are met. And as long as that happens, then I'm okay with it. I want to see consistency restored to the family. And I'm sure with the professionals that we have coming in from supportive services, I want to feel confident that we can rebuild the bridges that have been broken.
And Lynn, I know that Dennis asked you throughout the process, but just to confirm, do these repair plans feel fair and attainable for you?
Yep, they do.
Great. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen. Before we close out, do either of you have any questions or anything else you'd like to say today while we have this opportunity to all be together?
I want to thank you for taking the time to listen and let me express myself. It's something that I've had a really difficult time with over the last several years, and certainly, I needed to take time to journalize a lot of my feelings, and I hope that I was able to get them out there in a way that people could receive my intended message and understand I'm doing this for the love of our children. And Lynn, I still care for you. I love you. I just don't love your behavior. And I want to see this change. And no matter what direction we go in the future, these are our children. They're always going to be our children. And so as long as we're both above ground, they're a part of our life. And I want to be able to share it with you, whether it's in separate homes as we're doing now, or together possibly in the future if you find your recovery.
Thank you, Matthew. Lynn, do you have anything else you'd like to share or questions before we close the session?
I just want to thank you all for being here with me and Matthew today. And Matthew, thank you. And I'm really glad we did this. I'm glad that we are at a place that we can do this now. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Lynn. I want to congratulate both of you for being willing to participate in this process. It took a lot of courage for both of you to be here today, and it was a big step for both of you. So congratulations. Lynn, Dennis will also be providing you with a copy of the case plan and expectations at the end of this meeting. And I apologize for that. Matthew, if Lynn consents, would you like Dennis to notify you about Lynn's progress?
Yes,
Okay, Lynn, is that okay with you if Dennis keeps Matthew in the loop on your progress?
Yes.
Great. In addition, it's my understanding that Dennis will be conducting a 90-day review for progress with the case plan, and I am always available in the future if you need me. So again, thank you for taking this important step today, and I truly wish you and your family all the best.
Thank you.
thank you.